All right, let's take a little bit of a trip through what has happened over the last few days with regard to reactions with the state of play, criminal justice system, Republican primary, Biden crime family nonsense, and all of this sort of thing. Sunday morning, Maria Bartiromo on Fox News welcomed radical and repugnant reactionary Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene is making the case that with every new indictment against the failed former president, it is more proof that the Biden regime, I don't know what regime means, sounds very scary, that the Biden regime is communist. Here is Marjorie Taylor Greene making the case. And you can tell from the expression on Maria Bartiromo's face, she finds this very interesting.
Bidenomics is failing America. People can hardly afford gas. They can hardly afford groceries. And many seniors on a fixed income are choosing between paying rent and being able to buy their medications. People are drowning in inflation, and
Drowning.
America is failing under Bidenomics. They have no policies to run on. The only thing they can run on is to continue smearing President Trump's name. And I just want to follow up and say, Maria, the more times they indict President Trump, the more people realize that the Biden administration is a communist regime. And for the first time, Americans are actually seeing what communism really looks like. And we have to stand
This is what communism really looks like.
up to this. This is why Republicans in the House, when we come back in September, we have to vote for an impeachment inquiry because it's the right thing to do. Whether Joe Biden took $5 to his name for corrupt business deals or whether he took $40 million, it does not matter. It's up to Republicans to do the right thing and not allow the Department of Justice to win the 2024 presidential election for Joe Biden.
There is, and Maria now takes off her glasses because we're really going to get down to business here. There are so many layers here. First of all, imagine being so ignorant or disconnected from reality that you hear this and you think to yourself, yeah, we really are in a communist country now. We really, really are. So several layers to this. First of all, as I have said before, the indictment of a former president at the very top level is a signal that, at least in theory, no one is above the law and everyone is accountable. Now, Trump's already getting special privileges, and what will ultimately happen with sentencing and the adjudication of these cases, we don't know. But saying if a former president is indicted, it's communism is both strange because they clearly don't know what communism is. And it also is a complete distraction from the fact that it should be a good thing to be reminded no one is above the law. Now, let's, of course, get to these next layers about Bidenomics is communism and everything that's going on is communism and all these different things. When you look, listen, Marjorie Taylor Greene's not wrong that there are people who today in 2023 struggle to afford medication. That is a true thing. That's real. There are people today who struggle to afford gas, even though gas has come down significantly. You could say, well, people are struggling to afford rent or whatever the case may be. That is absolutely true. And it is happening at a slightly lower rate than it used to, thanks to some things that Joe Biden has done, and thanks to some broader economic environmental realities that impact not just the United States, but all Western industrialized wealthy nations. There are many ways that we could make those problems less severe. Marjorie Taylor Greene is against all of them, and not thanks to Marjorie Taylor Greene, but despite her opposition, there have been a bunch of little things that Joe Biden has done, little and sometimes medium and larger. CHIPS Act, Inflation Reduction Act, a bunch of changes to how student loan repayment is calculated. And I could give you a list of 50 different things. These are all actions that help a little with the problems Marjorie Taylor Greene is describing, and all things that she is against and actually is now arguing Joe Biden should be impeached over, which is really incredible. So the fact that Maria Bartiromo with a straight face continues to host this stuff really tells us a lot about what's going on over there at Fox News. But the real tragedy is the fact that there's a lot of people in this country who watch this stuff and go, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like communism. It's like gas is more than I remember it being and Trump's under indictment. It's Biden communism. This is what communism looks like. And whatever your view about communism, this is not communism. And this goes back to the fact that we can't start with a shared basis in fact. We can discuss the pros and cons of indicting a former president. We can discuss the pros and cons of Bidenomics. But if we're starting at this is communism, there's very little conversation that can actually be had.